Now, a gay clergyman who was prevented from taking up a post as a hospital chaplain has said he feels sick after an employment tribunal ruled he was not discriminated against. Canon Jeremy Pemberton made history when he became the first British clergyman to marry his same-sex partner. But shortly after he was told the bishop was withdrawing his licence and a job offer that he had received was withdrawn. Despite this, he is still working in a hospital as a chaplain in the Lincolnshire NHS Trust. Now he says he's going to appeal against the ruling. And we're also joined by the Reverend Dr. Ian Poole, who's here with us this morning. He works in the same diocese as Jeremy. Thank you both very much for coming in. Tell us, first of all, Jeremy, I said that you felt sick when you heard the ruling. Tell us a bit more.
Yes, I wasn't surprised, Joanna, to be honest. I was actually expecting to hear the result we got, but I was very disappointed.
Why were you so disappointed?
Well, marriage is a human right. People have the right to marry or not to marry. And actually, in the Church of England, in our rules, we have an article that says priests can marry who they want to marry. I mean, you can't marry people if it's not legal to marry them. And it was legal for me to marry. And Article 32 of the 39 article says it's up to me who I choose to marry, not for anybody else to tell me. And I think the bishops were wrong to put out guidance that said you can't marry people. That's against our rules. And I don't think they should have said that.
What's your perspective on it, Ian?
Well, I think it's really worth reflecting carefully on what the tribunal did and didn't say. I'm really interested Jeremy wasn't surprised. Actually, I was slightly.
Unexpected.
Peter Taxell's claimed that the ruling sets a precedent. It sets no such precedent at all. It simply has clarified the law and the way that law applied. And again, the other thing that the tribunal did not do is it didn't evaluate the Church's doctrine. What it simply said was, has the Church got a clear doctrine? Answer, yes. Has that doctrine been communicated? Answer, yes. Have the bishops acted in line with the doctrine as expressed by the Church of England? Yes, they have. Was Jeremy aware of that, and was he aware of the consequences? And the communication shows clearly that's the case. But I guess the question of what marriage is brings us back to the question of law in the UK.
You'll not be surprised to know that I disagree with all his yeses. They're no's for me.
Yes, of course, they're no's for you. All I'm saying, I'm not saying my view, I'm saying this is what the tribunal judgment said.
And the tribunal did also say...
That's why you weren't surprised that...
The tribunal did actually say that I was discriminated against, but it said the Church of England had the right to do so.
It does, and because in law...
So that's important, to recognise that discrimination took place. And I think people in this country are sickened by discrimination. They don't understand why getting married is something that should be punished, and they think it's just disgusting, really. That's what they tell me.
What do you say to that, Ian? I mean, someone like Jeremy is doing the right thing, isn't he, by committing to somebody else in love? Why should the Church disagree with that?
Well, in law, there are two kinds of discrimination. There's illegitimate discrimination, which is the kind, as Jeremy mentions, people are sickened by. There's also legitimate discrimination, and that's enshrined in law. And, for example, it's not legitimate if I'm appointing someone to a job to discriminate whether they're a Muslim or not. If someone's coming forward as a candidate for Christian ministry, I'm allowed to discriminate on that. And the tribunal said two important things about discrimination. First of all, they said that it was very clear that Jeremy had not been discriminated against simply because he was gay, and they adduced quite a lot of evidence and correspondence about that. But the second thing the tribunal said was the Church has, in law, been granted permission for legitimate discrimination. And the legitimate discrimination is to do with whether or not clergy are actually in line with the teaching of the Church. And if the thing I was worried about with the tribunal, if the tribunal had ruled in a different way, what it would have been saying, I think this is what Jeremy was asking by going to the tribunal, was asking that clergy can disregard the teaching of the Church. And the tribunal said, actually, they can't.
No, I was actually doing what I thought the teaching of the Church allowed me to do, which in Article 32 says I can marry who I choose. Now, that article was formed before anyone thought of same-sex marriage, but the intention of the article was to preserve my right and to marry legally who I chose, not the right of bishops to tell me who I shouldn't.
Specifically now, though, the Church of England says its position is clear in that
I don't think its position is...
Well, it says it supports vicars in same-sex civil partnerships, but marriage is between a man and a woman, and the Church does have an opt-out from the relevant legislation.
It does indeed. It's had an amazing change of heart over civil partnerships because it was hotly opposed by bishops in most of its passage through the House of Lords. And they've suddenly discovered civil partnerships, think they're a lovely thing. But the doctrine of the Church of England says this, that marriage is between a man and a woman for life. Now, interestingly, the Church of England has a number now of divorced and remarried bishops. They've gone against the doctrine of the Church of England. Nobody's punished them.
Is that hypocritical?
Yes, it is.
I'm
telling you, it is.
Well, there's two things. I think, first of all, again, Jeremy and I clearly actually, there's another thing we do. Agreement is breaking out here. I agree with Jeremy that I think that the way the Church has handled civil partnership question has been unhelpful, has been confusing. Actually, I thought what happened was mistaken in the past.
But why should it allow one thing, what Jeremy's saying about divorced and remarried, to be fine?
Well, the Church hasn't changed.
When gay marriage is legal...
The Church does not say divorce and remarriage is fine. Actually, if anyone's been involved in divorce and has remarried, they have to go through a difficult, a pastorally challenging process before they can, for instance, be admitted into ministry. So the Church has not changed its teaching. What it has done is it's added a clause saying, when this goes wrong, here's a remedy to try and restore it. It's not a change of understanding. But I think, just going back to the 39 Articles, I think the doctrine of the Church is actually clear, and I think it's a little bit disingenuous of Jeremy to claim that the 39 Articles statement on marriage legitimises his approach, because, again, the judge in the tribunal was really clear in saying the Church of England has consistently, for a long time, very articulately, and as recently as 2014 in February in the Bishop's statement, said very clearly what the Church's teaching on marriage is. It's enshrined in canon law, and canon law is a law of the land. So, in fact, people don't realise that in Britain today, we have two laws about marriage. We have the law, which is shaped by the 2013 Act. We also have ecclesiastical law, which includes canon law of the Church, which says very clearly that marriage is between one man and one woman. And actually, that's the law which, through the oath of canonical obedience, the clergy are to submit to. And the Bishop said to Jeremy very clearly that was the case.
At the moment, the Church of England has had no discussion about, in the appropriate form, to decide whether it has a doctrine about same-sex marriage or not. All we've had is pastoral guidance from the bishops. That's the clues in the title. It is not doctrine. The Church of England has not decided that.
You're still wearing the dog collar. You are working within the Church.
I also have this. I have this bizarre.
The Church decided really clearly. The Church decided really clearly.
It hasn't
We've had this ruling, and yet he's still working.
It's all of it. All the documentation about the Church is listed in the tribunal ruling. The judge went to great length.
Can I explain something to you?
All the examples in canon law, in bishops' general communication of pastoral letter, in specific communication from the assistant bishop in the diocese, from the acting bishop in the diocese, from the bishop...
But there's a lot of discretion, isn't there? It depends where you're working.
Can I just read to you what the bishop wrote? The Bishop of Lincoln wrote to Jeremy. He said this: "You have acted in a way which is inconsistent with your ordination vows and your canonical duty to live in accordance with the teachings of the Church of England." That's pretty unambiguous to me, and the judge thought so too.
Can I say that the Bishop of Lincoln gave me a rebuke, and I've been treated very differently in two different dioceses. I've got a dog collar on because I have a licence and I'm a priest in good standing in the Diocese of Lincoln. I wake up in the morning in Nottinghamshire, not a priest, because the diocese has removed all my capacity to act as a priest. I get in my car, I drive 12 miles up the road to the village of Norton Disney, I cross the county boundary and boom, I'm a priest. I think that's completely crackers, and most people think so.
So how do you explain that?
Well, I explain that because in order to function as a priest in the Church of England, you have to have a licence from the bishop.
And I have one.
And
he has one, and the licence is absolutely key because it's the legal way that a bishop allows a priest to operate with all the responsibilities and all the privileges. Now, because licences are so important...
But there's no clarity when he can operate in one place and not another.
Well, the judge thought there was absolute clarity, and the reason why Jeremy has a licence in one place and not a licence in the other is because clergy have such good protection under law about the licence that if there's clear evidence, which there was in this case, not to grant a licence, then the bishop can do so. But if Jeremy already has a licence, which he had, to remove that licence, the bishop has to go through a complex and expensive legal procedure.
This is nonsense.
And the bishop said...
This is nonsense, Ian, and you know it. The clergy discipline measure was designed to be a simple, direct way of dealing with clergy discipline matters.
And I was on General Synod when it went through, and it's turned out not to be the case.
No, it's been used a number of times, and you know it perfectly effectively. So if the bishop really thought I'd done something bad, he could have asked his archdeacon to start an action against me under the CDM to remove my licence.
Basically,
they never did that.
For you, as
Sorry, John, can I just say, neither bishop in Southern or Nottingham or in Lincoln had any complaint made to them about my marrying, either informal or formal. Nobody complained. It's not a problem. And I think Ian needs to get over it.
Well, just explain then, as things stand, you could carry on in the same position that you're in forever, but you can't, if you wanted to and they wanted you, but you can't move elsewhere.
If I do move, there's a risk.
Right.
So I got offered another job.
Why do you want to... Has it made you question staying within the church, carrying on what you're doing?
No, not at all. I've been a member of the Church of England since I was baptised at 4 months old in King's College Chapel, Cambridge, and I'm going to stay, and I'll stay forever. This is my church. I belong here. I've given 34 years of ministry, and nobody's ever complained about the ministry I've offered. I'm a canon of 2 cathedrals. That tells you that actually people think I do good ministry. I was complimented in the House of Commons yesterday on my ministry, and I am disgusted, really, by the church's attitude and behaviour. And the thing is, I'm fairly confident and reasonably articulate, but there are a lot of gay and lesbian people out there who feel that the church rides roughshod over them, who feel they have to hide their life.
Quick final thought from you, Ian. Does that make you feel sad when you hear that? He's describing effectively being a second-class citizen.
It makes me feel very sad. What Jeremy said about CDM is not true. It's a complex legal process. The judge interpreted the Bishop of Lincoln not deploying that actually as an act of compassion. There's a very easy remedy to that. The other thing I'd say is I feel much more sympathy for gay clergy who I know who've actually taken a very different response to Jeremy. Gay clergy who've said they accept the teaching of the church, they won't ride roughshod over their vows of canonical obedience, and therefore either they've remained celibate, or I've got other gay clergy friends who've fallen in love and married a woman. I've got other gay clergy friends who disagree with the teaching of the church, as Jeremy does, but out of respect for the church and out of integrity for themselves, they've said, I'm not going to enter a same-sex marriage because I know that's against the church's teaching. And in order to have integrity in relationship with my bishop and the teaching of the church, then I must stay as I am, even though they don't like it.
I disagree with the notion that I don't believe the teaching of the church and don't live with integrity. I think that's
what the bishops
a fearful slur.
That's what the judge...
I think it's outrageous.
We must leave it there, but thank you both very much. Thank you. And it's got people talking on social media as well. Reverend Paul on Twitter says no religion should have the right to discriminate on any grounds. They should not be above the law. Jemima on Twitter, it's just dreadful and archaic that the church can legally discriminate against a gay man for getting married. Outrageous. Do keep your thoughts coming in. And just to say as well that a spokesperson for the Diocese of Southwell and Nottingham said that they recognise that it's been a long and difficult process for all concerned. Churches across the diocese continue to offer a generous welcome to people from all backgrounds. We remain engaged in the ongoing shared conversations across the wider Church of England that are exploring questions relating to human sexuality.